Hi, hello. We're slouched because the lighting is in my fucking eyes and getting in these glasses that I definitely don't need because I can see, but I look cute. So anyways, today we're back with another video. Let me introduce myself. Hey, babes. Welcome back, or welcome to another video. If you're welcome if you're new. I don't know. If you don't know who I am, I'm Rochelle. I'm a 20-year-old black woman who's also bisexual and is tired of like respectability politics and tone policing over topics that get people killed, cost people their lives, further uphold systems of oppression, yada yada yada. I get on here and I rant about shit that pisses me the fuck off, and do some education along the way for myself and for others. And yeah, so let's get into it. Today I'm going to, unfortunately, watch something by Candace Owens, and I'm gonna cry. So we're gonna watch this video of hers called, "Is This What MLK Fought For?" And it's from a month ago for MLK Day, whatever, because today is the 27th. All right. Her voice is already irritating. I'm going to cry. All right, we're in for it. Here is This What MLK Fought For by Candace Owens.
You know what I think? I think after a lot of years, Black America is coming around to Candace Owens. I see that.
No. Immediately, no. Black America is not coming around to Candace Owens. She is a token black person for the ultra-conservative right who upholds white supremacy and would like to continue upholding white supremacy. She is a white supremacist. I don't care what you want to put into, I don't care that she's black. Okay, she's a white supremacist.
Post, people finally starting to listen a little bit to what I have been saying. They thought that I was so against them when I was just trying to expose the fact that Democrats were getting bored with Black America and we're going to eventually import tons of illegals to replace Black Americans.
Okay, let's talk about immigration. Since everybody wants to open their mouth and talk about immigration, let's talk about it. So, obviously, we have a lot of immigrants coming in, blah, 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 yada, 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 border crisis. What she's talking about right now is basically the Great Replacement Theory, which is a white supremacist theory. The Great Replacement Theory, in simple terms, states that welcoming immigration policies, particularly those impacting non-white immigrants, are part of a plot designed to undermine or replace the political power and culture of white people living in Western countries. Multiple iterations of the Great Replacement Theory have been and continue to be used by anti-immigrant groups, white supremacists, and others. Prominent iterations include rhetoric of invasion, so saying that it basically says that it's a migrant invasion and it needs to be stopped before white America is conquered, that there's this voter replacement thing that says that the theory also incorporates the inaccurate assumption that non-white immigrants will vote a certain way, and therefore pro-immigration policies are designed by elites, i.e. Democrats in this case, to diminish the political influence of white Americans. So basically saying that the voter pool is being tampered with to be more pro-Democrats, because first off, they're assuming that immigrants will vote for Democrats, and assuming that Democrats are pushing people to come in to vote for Democrats. And also, of course, anti-Semitism. In other iterations, the theory can be found embedded in a web of other xenophobic conspiracies, including anti-Semitic notions that Jewish elites are responsible for the replacement plot. Regardless of which version is referred, proponents of the Great Replacement Theory almost always paint a life or death scenario concerning the fate of white America. The theory contends that non-white immigration must be stopped, or else the country is on, as Carlson, they're talking about Tucker Carlson, put it, a suicidal path. As a consequence of these existential terms, the theory often coincides directly or indirectly with calls for violence. All this to say, what Candace Owens just said is a white supremacist talking point of the Great Replacement Theory. She's now trying to say that she's applying it to Black America, and she's saying that like it's replacing Black America, but it's not. That it's anyways.
Essentially, our vote wasn't going to matter anymore. I can't even state how many times I said this on the road, and I was met with roars boos from Black America that were so seized by the BLM narrative that they didn't realize what was happening. Well, now Biden is president. Of course, they are flooding millions of illegals into America, dropping them off in inner cities.
It's very important to pay attention to the fact that she says illegals instead of, well, like, these people are immigrating illegally, yes, but they are people, and branding them as just illegals takes away the human aspect of these people. It takes away the fact that they are people, in fact, and she's saying illegals, right? And basically what she's trying to say here is that Democrats want more votes, but they don't want to reach out to black people and get their votes, so they're importing immigrants and using them to get more votes, which is a really stupid thing.
Take a listen to what this Chicago resident had to say in a press conference.
Politically, having over 500 people in our community would completely wipe out any interest we have. Are you aware that there are immigrant advocates at state houses all over this country who are advocating for non-citizen voting in local elections? What if that happened here? That would change the mindset of what we as a black community need to thrive here in Chicago. That's a concern of ours. This is much bigger than the mayor of Chicago or Chicago Police Department. This is an effort to destroy our neighborhoods and silence our voices even further.
What people are mad about is the fact that their government doesn't represent them, that their government is not representing the issues or fixing issues that these communities, these people care about, right? And what we're being told is the problem, or what's going to fix that, is to stop immigration. We're being told that immigration is the reason why our leaders don't hear what we have to say. That's not true. The reason they don't hear what we have to say is they don't care. They don't care what we're saying. They only do their interests. I don't know if you've ever seen the plot. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can pull it up real quick. Here it is. Okay, this is the thing I'm looking for. So basically, there are these two graphs right here. So in a democracy, ideally, you would have a linear line, right? It would be a linear graph, right? Of if 0% of the American public wanted something, there's a 0% chance that it passes. And if 100% want something, then there's a 100% chance that it would pass in Congress, right? In America, we look at these graphs, and for average citizens, it's basically a horizontal asymptote, which that sounds like a lot of math, but basically it's just a horizontal line, like it's just here. It basically says that it doesn't matter how much the American public likes something or how much they dislike something. There's about a 30% chance of it passing. So whether or not 100% of us want it or 0% of us want it, there's a 30% chance of it passing. Now what's really interesting is looking at these next two graphs, which is the economic elites preferences and interest group alignments, okay? With economic elites preferences, it's basically the linear graph that we should have as a democracy, right? That we claim to have. It's basically linear. So whatever people with money, lots of it, want, they have a higher chance of getting it passed, and what they don't want gets a lower chance of getting passed. Similarly with interest group alignments, even though it's more of an S curve than linear, but still, it still goes up. Like there's still a greater chance of these laws being adopted if interest groups, want it, or interest groups align themselves with it, like, all of that stuff. Basically what I'm saying is they don't listen to us because they don't care. They don't listen to average citizens like us. They don't care. They only listen to money. So when this guy is sitting here and he's complaining about immigrants and he's saying that with more immigrants our voices are going to be drowned out, it's already drowned out because they don't listen to us because of money. It's not about like demographic, saturation, right? Unless you're tying it to, like, it doesn't matter about race saturation unless you're tying it to wealth, whether or not they'll listen to you, because they're not going to listen to a poor black community just as much as they're not going to listen to a poor white community, because money.
And that's a lot of words to say. I'm sorry, Candace Owens, that we haven't been listening for the last 8 years as we've castigated you and tons of other Black American conservatives that have been pointing out this predicament. Now, it remains to be seen whether or not it is simply too late. As I said, they are ushering in millions and millions of illegal aliens. And of course, the Black America is
also, again, aliens. She says illegal aliens now. Again, she refused to refer to these people as human beings. Like, United States involvement in Latin America specifically is the reason why we have so many immigrants coming in from those countries, because we went in there, we destabilized the fuck out of those places, and we make it like unsafe, and then people are like, well, I want to go somewhere safe, and so they come here, even though here isn't really that safe, but it's safer in comparison. People don't want to leave where they have to live, okay? They like their homes, they like the places that they grew up in, they like where their family is. but they leave because they want better. Also, if we rewrote our immigration laws to be easier and like better, we wouldn't have illegal immigrants. We would just have immigrants, but they don't want immigrants.
The first part of America to be impacted by this, they're obviously going to give these illegals welfare, because welfarism was always the name of the game. Get Black Americans addicted to small handouts, break down their families, and essentially marry them to the government.
Oh my God. I thought this was going to be a quick video, but then I remember that people like Candace Owens, right? They throw so many things so fast that you would overlook it if you didn't know what the fuck she was talking about or that she was wrong. Like, if you're not like insane like me and constantly paying attention to like politics and like socioeconomic things and whatnot, you would just kind of be like skimming over things, right? Every single thing that she says makes my eye twitch. Welfare was started for poor white people. Let's just be real, and we'll look it up. You have to remember, America doesn't like black people. So anything that was like started, like I would say before the civil rights era, any sort of government program that was started is not for black people. It's not for black people. Like, anything that benefited the public would be started for poor whites and not for black people. They wouldn't do that. They hate us. Like, why would they start something to help us? That doesn't make sense. And her argument is that welfare doesn't help black people and it just gets them addicted to the government, which is a whole nother thing. Brief overview of race and social welfare. In the early 1900s, state legislatures began to pass bills that supported single mothers called mothers' pensions. While African Americans were more deeply impoverished, the aid was given mostly solely to white women with Anglo ancestry. Because benefits were administered locally, rules frequently were created explicitly to exclude women of color. One common requirement was that the mother maintain a suitable home for her children. The term suitable, which was not clearly defined, was frequently used to exclude African American women due to the negative stereotypes of African Americans. In 1935, the New Deal established the Social Security Act, which included the Aid to Dependent Children program. Language from the original Social Security bill that outlawed racial discrimination was totally removed from the bill, giving states silent permission to discriminate. Like the mother's pensions, ADC was administered at the local level, leaving more room for racial discrimination in some states. The federal government did not participate in personnel or administration in the individual states, tactically allowing discrimination in hiring, and African Americans were rarely hired as welfare workers. The children of poor Southern African American women were often barred or removed from ADC roles under the rationale of suitable work or employable mother. The same standards were not applied to white mothers, where staying at home with children was socially valued. In 1935, Congress approved for widows of retired workers and their children under the Old Age Insurance Provisions Act. While this was an important step in eliminating old age poverty, the majority of professions which were covered in the act were occupations for whites and occupations filled mostly by African Americans. Domestic work, seasonal labor, farm labor were excluded. White widows were offered an alternative to ADC, which was preferable since they did not have to demonstrate economic need and were not subject to morality tests, suitable home policies, or compulsory work requirements. These white widows were considered the deserving poor, and they rapidly left ADC, creating a two-tiered system. Okay, so I know I said that it was created for white people. It was created for everybody, but discrimination, of course, right? So they took the teeth out of it and discrimination was allowed to happen based off of, who was enforcing these laws. And so they said, you're not a deserving poor of welfare, so we're not gonna give it to you. So her whole thing saying that, it was to get them hooked on it is not the case, because it was to help people, and they literally left out African Americans and on purpose at first left them out of receiving welfare. So this whole notion that welfare, the whole welfare queen thing, the whole relying on government thing, black people don't want to work stuff, is not historically accurate at all. That's not the case. Anyways.
Whose idea was this? Well, we can't blame it on a ton of people, but we can at least look at life in America for Black Americans before the civil rights protests and Lyndon Baines Johnson and the Great Society Act. Let's actually look back to 1930s. Harlem, obviously. It has always been a historically Black neighborhood in New York City. I'm going to show you images of Black America, again, This is when there was racial segregation. Take a look. So what we are seeing here, again, this is the 1930s in Harlem, is a certain decorum. Civilized. That's the only word that I would use to describe what we are seeing. Black Americans dressed to the nines. Who knows where they're going? Probably to work. Of course, during...
I'm sorry, it's just kind of bothering me that she just said like a while ago, like a few seconds ago, she said, this is Harlem during racial segregation. Before the civil rights. I feel like she's gonna try and make a point that these were like good times, and I really hope that's not the case, because I genuinely think I'm going to lose my shit.
It was time Black American families were together. You see police officers on the street, but it doesn't really seem like they have much to be doing, because as I said, these Black Americans have a certain decorum to them.
These Black Americans have a certain decorum to them. They're the good blacks, the good ones who behave. It enrages me, this talking point, from anybody, but specifically other black people who want to fit black people into good black person, bad black person with class, black person without class, ghetto black. Not like, it's just like doing all this division between black people. Who's the good black? Who's the bad black? All this stuff is really obnoxious, and it's really fucking annoying, and it does nothing but reiterate white supremacist talking points of like blackness inherently being bad and having to be fixed and having to rise above your station of being black to be a good black, because you have to fight against your biological nature to be violent, to be aggressive, to be intellectually inferior. It's just really stupid and lacks factual evidence and reasoning and like history, and it's really annoying, and it's really divisive, and it's a white supremacist talking point.
Gentlemen are wearing hats and suits. The ladies are wearing dresses and heels.
Also, sorry, she's talking about the outfits. She's just describing, like, that's just how they dress at the time. This is just the time period, like the fashion of the time period. That's nothing to do with the nature of these people. And I know that's how she's applying it, because I know what her thought process is. It's basically like, they're not dressed immodestly, and they're not da-da-da-da. Everybody dressed like this, so it doesn't matter.
Also wearing hats. It's not a place that I would be fearful to travel alone, whether it was daytime or nighttime.
Okay. She's saying that as if, like, again, see, this is the problem. They pack so many things into such a little time frame that you have to debunk every 5 seconds. She's basically trying to say black neighborhoods are scary and violent and full of crime. And she's saying this black neighborhood, however, everyone is being a good black person, so I'm not scared to go here, because it doesn't look like there's crime, because these black people know how to behave, because they have decorum.
My, how time has changed. We know that simply is not the circumstance in Black America today. We know that if you went into a black neighborhood in an inner city, you would see things very differently. We also know that bizarrely there's a sense of
Wow, I just said that. I basically just said the same thing.
Entitlement when it comes to Black America, at the very same time that we are insisting.
Entitlement to what? Rights? Like the money that's owed to us? Because what happened to 40 acres and a mule? We have money. Where's our money? Entitlement to rights, to being seen as human, being seen as equal in the justice system, healthcare, like anywhere ever. I'm sorry, is that too much entitlement for you, Candace?
Upon this victim narrative, which has been taught to us by Black Lives Matter, diversity, equity, inclusion departments. Oh, Black America, nothing is ever your fault.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have a headache. Okay, victim narrative. You can't call the way Black Americans feel about being black in America a victim narrative that they're placing on themselves or that they've been taught, when the system in which they live is inherently oppressive upon their life. America is structurally and systematically oppressive to black people. That's just a fact. That is just a fact. And it is not a victim narrative that we're just like insisting upon and placing on ourselves because we just want somebody to feel sorry for us and we just want like everything without working for it. It is because that is literally how America has been set up from the beginning. The reason we don't have universal health care for everyone is because they thought that black people were a dying race. And they were like, if we just deny them healthcare, in 2 or 3 generations, they'll die out. So they made it expensive so black people couldn't go to the doctor, excluded them from healthcare services, hoping that they would all just die out. And that's why we don't have universal healthcare, because they were like, black people will get healthcare though, and we don't want that. Systematically, the country is racist and oppressive towards black people. So to sit here and to say that it's this victim narrative and that like Black America is like, if nothing's ever my fault. Like, of course there are black people who have done things wrong, right? That doesn't mean that America is not systemically racist or structurally racist and oppressive to black people.
The reality, we hold a lot of power in this country. All we have to do is throw out the accusation of racism. People are fearful to tell us that what we are doing is wrong because, again, they will just be labeled as racist.
No. This is literally the thing that the token black conservatives do, is give white people a pass to be racist because they're like, hey, they're just gonna say everything you say negative about black people is racist. So just say it anyways, is basically what she's saying. She's like, no, like they're wrong though. It's not racism if you tell them they're wrong.
And who wants that? Especially if you're a white American. I was absolutely shocked by what I saw of this clip that took place in an airport somewhere recently here in America. This is a black man rapping because there are no rules apparently if you're a black American and you are in an airport. Take a look.
Bro, want me to save her? No, mom, you better off saving yourself. I was just stuck in the hood, breaking the crib. Feds, I got the whole city lit. No, I'm the next one to get rich.
This is annoying. I understand. This has nothing to do with like race. Really, he's just black. It could have just as easily been any other race who did this.
That young man looked like he's suffering from racism in America.
I'm sorry. Is her argument that because he can rap with a speaker in an airport that racism doesn't exist in America? Okay.
Really fearful that there are white people around him, that they're going to do something to him. Nope. As I said, what we are suffering from actually in this country is extreme entitlement. So, Black America, and all of America, if you are willing to listen to what I have been saying, because
if you're willing to listen to what I've been saying. I hate her fucking cadence. I hate the way she speaks. She's irritating me. She's irritating me so much.
An element of this, of course, is people that are suffering from white guilt.
People that are suffering from white guilt. They should be. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if it, like, I'm not saying that every white person needs to feel like they, like, personally whipped the fuck out of a slave's back, you know, or like lynched a black person. What I am saying is you should feel a little bit like, it's a bit unfair that I get to like live life this way, like without the fear of like my race, and you don't, and you're constantly having to think about that. I'm okay with white people feeling that. I'm okay with them thinking that. Like, you don't have to feel like you like lynched a black person, you were a part of the KKK. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like, recognize your privilege and realize that it's unfair.
White guilt and a fear of being called racist. The people that are sitting around there not saying.
Also, it's so funny that her whole framing of her argument right now is basically saying that racism doesn't exist and that the real fear, the real problem is white people being afraid of being called racist. That like, that's the real fear. That's the real thing we should work on, is to make sure white people don't fear being called racist, rather than actual racism, because to her it doesn't exist. It's fake. But when somebody was actually racist to her, like actually, there was something that happened, I forgot what it was. Somebody was actually racist to her. All of a sudden she wanted to cry racism. And I'm like, I thought it didn't exist, Candace. I thought it wasn't real, Candace. What happened?
Anything. I would have said something so quickly. As you guys know, I am constantly talking to people about their inappropriate behavior.
I'm constantly talking to people about their inappropriate behavior. How about we talk about your fucking hairline and how uneven it is? I'm sorry, I'm getting mean and personal, but that's what this channel is. It's disrespectful lady politics. I don't need to respect her at all because she's dumb as fuck. That's why. Not even that she's dumb as fuck. I'm sure she's actually really smart because she's a grifter. She's just saying dumb shit that's incorrect and has no factual basis whatsoever.
In airports, and of course it's not just Black Americans, it's also white Americans, as we've covered on this show.
Oh, wow. Inclusivity, Candace. Oh my gosh, how are those DEI programs working for you? Ooh, look at that. You got a little diversity, equity, and inclusion in there. Oh, woo.
But what Black America is actually suffering from, how we got here, is because of extreme welfarism. Which brings me to...
I'm sorry. My brain is going to break from trying to even connect these dots. Welfare to Black communities that were systematically discriminated against, exploited, decimated, is the reason why a Black guy is listening to music on a speaker in an airport. I just want to make sure that's right. That's what I'm... Okay.
Martin Luther King Jr., who believed in the radical redistribution of wealth. Yes, an element of Marxism in which he supported. We'll just take money from people and redistribute it. And
take money from people is a really broad term. Take money from people who don't fucking need all of it. Who don't need that fucking much. Who don't need to be billionaires. Elon Musk doesn't need all that fucking money. You know why? Because people are starving. People are dying. That's literally it. And then, like, his wealth is his wealth and he worked for it. I don't care. People are dying. So I'm sorry. People are dying.
Was born Lyndon Baines Johnson, an avowed racist that sat in the White House, said, what about the Great Society Act? What about if the government incentivized you to behave poorly so that you could never get ahead in life?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Candace fucking Owens, I cannot stand you. I cannot stand you. I cannot. I cannot. The Great Society program became Johnson's agenda for Congress in January 1965. Aid to education. Sounds good. Attack on disease. Sound good. Medicare. Sounds good. Urban renewal. Sounds good. Beautification. Conservation. Development of depressed regions. A wide-scale fight against poverty. Control and prevention of crime and delinquency. Removal of obstacles to the right to vote. Okay, the only thing here that gives me a little bit of alarm is control and prevention of crime and delinquency. Is that racial? Is the real question. But other than that, all this sounds like is democratic socialism, which is why she hates it. Because it helps people. She's saying that LBJ, let me just replay what she said because I feel like my brain is rotting.
Racist that sat in the White House said, what about the Great Society Act? What about if the government incentivized you to behave poorly?
Incentivized you to behave poorly. All of this is I forget what the psych term is, but I took AP Psych and there was this term talking about how we attribute good things only happening to good people and bad things only happening to bad people. I.e., well, being poor is a bad thing. And if you're poor, obviously you have to have done something wrong or you're a bad person because bad things happen to bad people. Flip side, if you're rich, obviously you've done good things, you're a good person because being rich is a good thing. So you have to be a good person because a good thing happened to you. You're rich now. What that line of thinking does completely eradicates the idea of context, history, things outside of people's control. Like, you can't control everything that happens to you. Like, I could walk outside and, I don't know, somebody could run me over with an electric scooter and I get my leg breaks or something. I don't fucking know. And I fall wrong or something. Now my leg's broken. I didn't do anything. That's completely out of my control. The only thing that was in my control was that I left my room. This line of thinking is just, you're a bad person if you're poor. But we already know that they think that poor people are evil and the devil incarnate. So the idea of helping poor people is just so ridiculous to her.
So that you could never get ahead in life. And here is the truth.
So you can never get ahead in life. Here's the thing. The issue with welfare and poverty in this country, right, is that it's a continuous loop. In terms of, like, once you fall into poverty, it's very hard to get out. Because with, like, welfare, right, there's a max amount of money that you can make where you can still be eligible for welfare benefits. Let's say with your welfare, you're getting, like, $300 from the government a month, right? And let's say, you know, the $300 helps you so you can, like, save a little bit more, or like, you know, you start working, like you're working and you're making money and right? And let's say your salary increases or something, right? And you start making more money, right? All of a sudden, the government sees, oh my gosh, you're making more than what the welfare limit is, right? So now we can take you off welfare. They take you off, but oh, now you're out of $300 a month that you used to have. So now you have to spend more of your own money and you fall right back in. You see how that works? So then you just fall back in, and it's this perpetual cycle of falling back in. And then there's all the problems of like, well, just get a job, like like homeless people, right? And stuff like that. They're like, get a job. Well, to get a job, you have to have a home address and all of these things. And if you don't have a home, you can't put it on a job. And then like to get a home, they want to see that you can pay it back, and then you have to have a job, but you don't have a job. So then it's this whole cycle of like, how do I get out of this? And then the government doesn't actually give enough money to people to actually help them. And then when they do give them enough money, and then they don't necessarily need the money by the government standards, they take the money away, and then you fall right back in. So there is issues with welfare and poverty in this country, but not the way that she's describing it.
I really want you to listen here. Don't be offended, because it is a fact. Black Americans were outpacing white Americans in this country in terms of economic growth before the dissolution of Jim Crow policies. Why? Because our families were together.
I've seen Ben Shapiro do this in another video. He was debating destiny. He said the reason the public education system is failing is because of broken homes. She's saying the reason why black people are poor, or like not even that they're poor, the reason why black America isn't economically thriving anymore is because of broken families. And she's attributing, I know she's gonna be attributing it to, well, she's not saying it, but she's implying that we just default to lazy, basically. So the government's incentivizing us to be lazy. We're just like, cool, we just don't have to work. And then I don't know how that links to, if you want to talk about broken families and the dissolution of the black middle class and nuclear family, talk about Reagan. Don't talk about LBJ. Talk about Ronald fucking Reagan and his war on drugs and all of the things that he did to attack black America. That's what the fuck Candace Owens should be talking about. But no, she doesn't want to open her mouth or read a book. She doesn't want to open her mouth and tell the truth, and she doesn't want to read a book. So she's just going to lie and say stupid shit, okay? Also, she said that the economic growth was larger during Jim Crow policies or whatever. I'm going to assume that the growth happening was because black people weren't allowed to make money from the very, very, very beginning of this country, and white people were. So if you start at zero and you go somewhere, chances are it's gonna be a larger slope than somebody who started at like 100 and went somewhere.
Again, I want you to picture what you just saw on the streets of Harlem. Then after the government got involved, and after they insisted on welfare policies and the radical redistribution of wealth, everything came down. The government knew what they were doing. It was Machiavellian. They knew that if they married black Americans to government and they...
I hate the framing of this argument as if she's saying, I'm trying to save black America. Because she's not. She's just saying this to tell white people that it's okay for them to think that black people are lazy, to tell black people it's okay to hate themselves, and to tell rich people to keep giving her money.
They incentivized poor behavior that you just watched in the airport.
You have to be a racist to believe what she just said. You have to be a racist to think that welfare is incentivizing a black man to dance in an airport with a speaker. Because genuinely, I'm trying to piece it together in my brain how that even seems like an argument, and it's really fucking difficult. It's not good argumentation at all. It's really bad, and it doesn't make any sense.
Name or his background, grew up without a father in the home.
Oh my god. Did she really just say he's fatherless? Did she really just say this is fatherless behavior? So let me get this right. Okay. Government gives welfare to people. Black people get welfare. Black people are on welfare. Homes miraculously fall apart because of welfare. Black guy listens to music in airport with speaker on. That's the logic I'm following here. I just have to put that in order, okay?
The systemic breakdown of family. It began with that. What's happened since? Well, it's what LBJ predicted when he said that he would have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 60 years. That is the predicament that we are in. So should we be celebrating?
There are so many issues with the Democratic Party that I could talk about pertaining to race and welfare. She's attacking it from a viewpoint of no one should get government help at all. That's what she's coming from. And I'm saying the government isn't helping enough. I'm not saying that people's paychecks need to be welfare. What I'm saying is, first of all, the government should be set up in a way in which people don't need welfare, i.e. livable wages. And systemically removing discrimination from sectors of life. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, if welfare is needed, though, that it is substantial and actually gets people out of poverty and isn't just a hole that recycles people and keeps them in poverty forever. Those are the critiques that she should be making. I don't know what this fatherless behavior nonsense she's talking about.
Celebrating MLK? Should we be celebrating him and his vision for the country? Outside, of course, of some things that he said, which we know were obviously great, right? Obviously, it's a good idea to say that we should be judging people.
Is she saying, okay, hold on, I should probably let her finish, but is she saying that we shouldn't be celebrating MLK because this is what MLK got us? A black guy listening to music in the airport? Is that what she's saying? Please tell me I'm making that up.
Not on the basis of their skin color, but on the basis of their character. That speaks to a meritocracy. And that flies in the face.
Meritocracy is not real. That shit is fake, okay? If you don't know what a meritocracy is, a government or the holding of power by people selected on the basis of their abilities, okay? So it's based off talent and ability, saying that, no, you get it because you're good at this. They try to say that we live in a meritocracy, except that diversity, equity, inclusion is ruining meritocracy because it's giving people who don't have abilities or talent spaces and jobs and opportunities they shouldn't have because they don't have the merit. They're saying that meritocracy already existed. It never existed in this country, ever. It never has, actually, because America is racist, it is sexist, it is homophobic, it is ableist, it is transphobic. So, no, it is Islamophobic. It's never been a meritocracy because people who have the ability and have the talent have been excluded based on basis of the things I've just mentioned. So we've never been a meritocracy.
Base of demanding a radical distribution of wealth. That doesn't make any sense. But outside of that, outside of the fluffy words and his I have a dream speech, what are the actual consequences of welfarism? You're looking at them. Now, I appreciate that Black Americans are waking up, and as I said at the beginning of this, I don't know if it's too late. It will remain to be seen. So in conclusion, here is what I will say. Everybody has a day off, right? I mean, not only because it's a snow day, but because MLK Jr. is now a federal holiday. And maybe what we should be doing as families is spending this day in reflect. Have we actually built a better America? Did the government want it to be a better America? What will America look like now that we do have this influx of illegal immigrants? And they are essentially saying, what we did to Black America, yeah, let's try it on this new population.
I don't understand this framing. It's delusional, it's nonsensical, it's not factual, it's anti-intellectual. It just makes no sense. And you have to be a bigot to believe it, or stupid. Which a lot of people who watch Candace Owens are both. And that's not necessarily their fault. It's the fault of the public education system, again, that is purposely designed to make us stupid. They actively pull funding from it so that way we can't be knowledgeable, and they purposely don't teach us things so we can be stupid about them. It comes down to the point that her argument is that the government is doing too much and is ruining things, and my argument is that the government is not doing enough, and what they do sometimes is harmful in a way. The things that they do too much of are things that are harmful, not in the ways that she thinks they are. The things that I think are harmful, she thinks are great.
Let's also marry them to governance and get them voting for us, presumably for the next 200 years.
That's dumb. That's stupid. Okay. I'm done with Candace Owens. I'm done with this video. It's gonna take me so long to fucking edit this video because A, she talks so much, B, I talk so much, and C, it was a 9-minute video and I took an hour, spent over an hour filming. I'm gonna try and cut this to 40 minutes. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but yeah, anyways, you can see my energy completely went away. as I got to the end of this video, because genuinely she sounds dumb. I'm torturing myself for the sake of teaching and the sake of like getting people to hear me, to understand, for us to like all get here on the same level of things and make change and be good for the world, basically. And in doing so, I have to listen to viewpoints that I vehemently oppose and things that are not factual. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I have one before this, the only one that's up here on this channel, which is talking about PragerU and something about Republicans and freedom. I forget what the title of it is. Either way, you can watch that. I also have a personal channel that I haven't uploaded in a while, but by the time this video should be up, my video that I made for the personal channel like 2 weeks ago should also be up. Fingers crossed. But yeah, I have a personal channel called Shelly Beans. Yes, and I'll try to link it in the bio to this. I don't know. Either way, you can go check that out if you want. You can go check out the other video. You can check me out on TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram. I don't really use Snapchat that much, but Instagram, TikTok, I'm there. You can go look at those and hang out with me there and all that stuff. So goodbye, have fun, fuck Candace Owens, and educate yourselves and be educated and get smarter and talk to people, and yeah, we will be the change that we want to see in the world.